Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to show you what I think is a super easy, super fun, super pretty tutorial on how to make a tumbler. And what we're going to do with this tumbler is we are going to wrap it in some of the pattern vinyl from 143 Vinyl and the DIY Alex collection. And we're going to use some of the new StarCraft glitter that just came out. So this is the tumbler we're going to be making. This is the Twilight Garden pattern of the printed vinyl, and this is the Pina Colada glitter from StarCraft. See how pretty that is? I love it, and I think it went really well together. So I'm going to show you how to size your templates for these tumblers, tell you where you can get them, and I'm going to show you how I wrap them without getting any bubbles. There is literally not a single bubble in this vinyl, and it's amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and turn you around to my workstation so we can get started, and I can show you how to wrap this tumbler. So I have here some of the printed patterned vinyls from DIY Alex and her pattern line, and we're going to kind of go through which ones I have. I don't have them all. I picked out my favorites. I don't know why I didn't get all of them because they're all super amazing, but I'm just going to go through with you the ones I do have and the names. So starting with this one is the 90s Rainbow Leopard, which if any of you are familiar with the 90s, that pattern right there screams Lisa Frank to me, and I think it's amazing. And then we have this one here, which is pink and white hearts, and that one is named All the Hearts. And then we have black and white modern dots. This one here is a striped pattern, which is called Sun-Kissed Stripes. Sun-Kissed Stripes. Kind of a tongue twister. This one obviously is my personal favorite. It is Pineapple Paradise. It's super tropical feeling. I love it. This one is a close second. This one is the Summer Blooms. Super bright and fun. Then this one here is Twilight Garden. Pretty roses and some greenery. And then we have some leopard prints here. And we have the black and white leopard, the black and gray leopard, and the neutral colored leopard. So I was quite honestly very torn as to which pattern I wanted to use on my cup. I initially was going to use this one, just slap some glitter and epoxy over the top of it, but then I got to looking at them and I'm like, maybe I'll do something a little different. Maybe I'll wrap the tumbler and I'm just going to put some glitter around the top of the bottom where the vinyl isn't going to cover. So when I decided that, I decided that I was going to go with something a little more neutral. So I decided to go with the Twilight Garden. And I think it turns out really pretty. I like it. I mean, not everybody else might like it, but I like it. I think it came out really, really pretty in the end. So I'm going to put all these other patterns away, and I'm going to get this stuck on my mat. I'm just using a light grip Cricut mat, and I'm going to put this right side here. I'm going to stick this on the mat and get that ready to cut. I won't bore you with showing you how it cuts on the Cricut. We all know how that works, all right? So I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to talk about this template with you. So you can see that it's not straight. And if I put it here on my cutting mat, you'll see that. So you can see that it's not straight here and it's not straight here. And the reason for that is because these tumblers are tapered. So if you take this tumbler and you measure the top and you measure the bottom, you're going to see that the top is wider than the bottom is. So I took a sewing measuring tape and I wrapped it around the top and I wrapped it around the bottom. My top measurement came out to about 10 inches. My bottom measurement came out to 9 inches. So that to me told me that I needed to make this top piece a little over 10, and this bottom piece a little over 9. So what I did when I sized this template that I got, and I will link this template for you. It's from Creative Fabrica. It's just a simple 30-ounce tumbler tapered template. So my measurements when I cut this, it was 10.2 inches wide and 9.1 inches tall, because I also measured the length of the cup, and I didn't want it to go to the very end on either side because I didn't want my vinyl kind of rolling over the end to create creases, and I didn't want it all the way here at the top because I am going to put epoxy there, and I wanted that epoxy to hit the rim of the cup instead of the top of the vinyl. So my template is 10.2 wide by 9.1 tall, and I am going to go ahead and cut this template out of the vinyl, and then we will wrap our cup. Okay, so my template is cut out. I have my cup. I have some scissors, my squeegee from 143 vinyl, and also my crafting knife from 143 vinyl, and we are going to wrap this cup. So I did sand this cup. You can probably see that it's a little rough. It's not as shiny. I did sand this and clean it. Just clean it with some rubbing alcohol. And I'm going to cut this template from the big piece of vinyl, and we're going to save the small scraps because admittedly I am a scrap hoarder and this vinyl is far too pretty to get rid of this little piece around the side. So I'm going to keep this, and then I am just going to weed around my design real quick. I'm going to grab my pin pen. I'm just going to pull off that extra around the outside just like that. Now, when you're doing a vinyl wrap, you're going to want to cut this down a little more. So I'm going to take it off of my mat here. I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to cut as close to the vinyl as I can to get away from this extra carrier sheet on the back. So I'm going to cut as close as I can to where my vinyl is, just like that. It makes it easier when you're wrapping your cup to not have a bunch of extra pieces hanging off the ends and the sides. Cut there. Just be careful not to cut into your vinyl. You wouldn't want to take a chunk out of it. There. Now, because of the way I decided to do this cup, I'm leaving some silver at the top and the bottom. And sometimes when you use a template, it might not line up right. So I'm going to show you what I do to correct mine if they don't line up exactly perfect at the end. But because of the way that I'm doing this, it's not going to make a difference because I'm actually, once I put this on, I'm actually going to put some white spray paint at the top and the bottom here to cover this line that you're going to get between this color and the silver, the top of the cup. So, and I'll explain why as soon as we wrap this and after we get it prepped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this top of my cup. This is the wider section of the vinyl wrap. So you can see that it lines up pretty well. There's not a ton of silver left over at the bottom. And what I'm going to do is take my squeegee. This is where these things come in handy for different things, and I'm going to lay my cup right there on top of it in between those two grooves so my cup stays still. Okay, so we're going to move this out of the way a little bit, and we're going to take our template, and I'm going to grab my pin pen again, and I'm just going to grab the back corner of this carrier sheet. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel it back a little bit, and I'm going to fold it. So I'm going to pull it back. I don't want to touch the vinyl too much. You don't want to remove any of the stickiness, so I'm going to do my best not to really touch the vinyl. I'm going to pull this back a little, just like that. And I'm going to fold this. So I'm going to crease it down so I have just a little bit of the stickiness of the vinyl showing and open. just enough to get it laid down under the cup and ready to start moving. So just like that. There's just a little piece folded back. And now we can put it on the cup. So I just kind of eyeball this. I know kind of where it's going to sit. So I'm going to take that piece of vinyl and I'm going to stick it on as straight as I can. So just like that. I'm going to lay it flat. So I'm going to burnish it down a little bit with my fingers. Make sure it's stuck on there really well. And like I said, I'm going to show you how to correct any alignment issues if you have them at the end. So now I'm going to fold here, and I'm going to just gently move my carrier sheet from the back of that vinyl out a little bit. So to prevent air bubbles, we're going to use our squeegee again, and we're just going to go across that line. So you can see where the vinyl's separating from the backing, and it's sticking to the cup. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to guide my vinyl down with my squeegee, just like this, nice and slow, making sure that it gets pressed on there well and not leaving big giant bubbles. So I'm just going to keep working it just like this until we get all the way around, and then it's going to kind of overlap and stick to itself at the end. This is going to ensure that you get a nice pull on your vinyl as well. You're not going to have big gaps, and it's going to stretch your vinyl around the cup as much as it can. Just like this. Just keep checking along the way. If you can get this all the way around your cup with no bubbles, I'm going to say that you have mastered the art of laying vinyl down. I know it's taken me several tries to get it, but the squeegee definitely helps. Going nice and slow is going to help you as well, because essentially you're laying this vinyl down and it's coming directly off the backing and directly onto the cup. So there's not a lot of room for air to get in. As you did see, this is StarCraft. Our printable vinyl is printed on the StarCraft white. So all of the printed vinyl is going to have that StarCraft quality to it, which is awesome because we all love StarCraft HD. I'm going to keep rolling this out. This part is a little time consuming. It takes a little bit, but you definitely don't want to rush this part because you want to try and line it up as much as you can and just really prevent those bubbles, because you don't want to have to be going through with your pen and popping bubbles and adding holes into your vinyl. Now, the cool part about this is if you don't want to use epoxy, you don't have to, because you're leaving some room at the top and bottom for your vinyl to really stick to that cup. Now, because I sanded it, I'm going to want to put something over it because now I have a rough edge around the cup. But with these, with the adhesive vinyl, if you just prep your tumbler like you would any other surface you're putting your vinyl on, so with some rubbing alcohol and letting it dry, making sure that there's no oils on there, there's nothing on there that's going to get in the way of your vinyl, you can wrap these tumblers with this permanent vinyl and just leave it. You don't have to put epoxy on it, and that's the great part about this is we have so many fun patterns, and a lot of people don't like using epoxy, and this is a great way to have a really pretty tumbler, make it for a gift, and there's nothing on there that's used. It's just as easy as making a vinyl decal and putting it on anything, in my personal opinion. So we're getting to the end here, and I think we're going to be pretty close to lined up. So I'm just going to work it to where it touches the other piece of vinyl, and that way I'm not going to lift and get a big spot or a big air bubble right here. So I'm going to work it down. It just came off the carrier sheet on that end. So I'm going to push it here, get it off the carrier sheet down here. I'm going to burnish it on. So just like that. So we're pretty lined up at the top here. This is where the two pieces of vinyl met at the top. And at the bottom, there's just a tiny, tiny, tiny little overlap piece right there that I'm going to trim off. But, I mean, just by itself, look how pretty this is. Just this pattern alone on this tumbler, and the fact that I can take this and pop the lid on it and throw a straw in it, and my tumbler's done, and I have a super pretty floral tumbler is pretty awesome, if you ask me. So I'm going to, one, work this bubble out right here. Just like that. Pull my squeegee through it, get it out from underneath my vinyl, which I just not wanting to do. There we go. And then I'm going to trim this bottom piece. So if you do end up overlapping here, I don't know how much you can see that, but it overlapped a little bit. So I'm just going to take my craft knife here and make sure it's sharp because for some reason I always lose my blade. And I'm just going to line it up with this bottom piece of vinyl, and I'm just going to cut straight across until it angles and it pulls it away and you have your straight line. So now that's lined up too, so you don't have to worry about seeing that extra piece of vinyl that was there. So again, I mean, I could be done with this tumbler right now if I wanted to, but I'm going to add a little bit of extra flair to it because I love glitter, so I'm going to add a little bit of glitter to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go add some spray paint on the top and bottom, and you'll see why. And then I'm going to grab some glitter and some Mod Podge, and we're going to put some glitter on here, and then we're going to epoxy. So I will be right back, and we'll keep going. So I know I said I was going to use Mod Podge to put this glitter on, but I actually changed my mind, and I'm going to do it with the epoxy method. So I have my epoxy mix here. I literally only have like 10 mLs of epoxy right here. Not a lot, because I don't need a lot. And I did go and spray paint this cup, so you can see that I just did a very little bit of white on the top and on the bottom. So the bottom is all white, and then the top just a little bit, so that way when I put this glitter on, because the glitter is white iridescent, that way it'll kind of ombre into the pattern, and you're not just going to see the pattern through the glitter. So I am going to put my epoxy on. You do not need a lot for this when you're doing the epoxy method with glitter. I mean, that is like a very little bit, and it goes a long way for your cup. So I am just going to get this spread out on the cup. It's kind of hard to move around when you use this little epoxy, but trust me when I say this is all that you're going to need. So I'm just going to get it on every part of this cup here. Like that. Make sure when you are using epoxy, you are using your proper protection equipment. So your gloves, your mask, you're using it in a well-ventilated area. Typically, I don't use epoxy in my house, but for sake of the video, I am. But all of my windows are open, and my kiddos aren't here, so we are all good. Once this gets glitter on it, it's going to go right back out to my cup room, which is out in my garage, so it will be out of the house. So we're just going to make sure that the bottom has a nice coat of glitter to hold this chunky glitter on. And that's literally it. I mixed more than I needed to, but I'm going to coat a couple pens with this epoxy too. So I definitely didn't need that much at all. I probably used 5 mLs, if that. I'll try and get this to stand up so I can take my glove off. I don't think it's going to happen. So we'll just do it this way. So yeah, so just a little bit of epoxy, and it already looks super awesome under a coat of epoxy with it nice and shiny. I'm going to just take this off and move this over, and I'm going to glitter my cup. So this glitter that I'm using is the Pina Colada Starcraft glitter. It is part of one of the new 45 new colors that were released. So I'm going to open the bigger side of the shaker. And since I haven't popped this thing out yet, I'll probably do that now. And what I'm going to do is kind of how I do a glitter burst, and I'm just going to make it like real solid around the bottom, just like this. And then I'm going to kind of just let the glitter fall. Kind of just ombre it up just a little up the side of the cup. I don't want to cover too much of the pattern, but I do want to cover all of that white. Just like that. And you can see how the glitter looks different on the white than it does on the pattern part of the vinyl, which is why I wanted to put that little bit of white spray paint on there so it would do that. That was exactly the goal, to get just some of that white solid part there. So that's the bottom. I'm going to do the same with the top. I'm just going to sprinkle it on here. Make sure it's nice and heavy on that solid white part. I'm getting glitter all over my desk. Then I'm just going to lightly tap my shaker with my cup at an angle and let it fall just slightly down the side. Just enough that it's going to cover the pattern just a little bit, but not too much. It's going to cover where the spray paint kind of ombres down the side of the cup as well. So that. I think that's good. So that is everything that I have to do for that step. And now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this dry. I might add a little more glitter here or there. But for the most part, I'm just going to let this dry and then add my final coat of epoxy once this coat is done, and we'll be done. And I can show you how to clean up your tumblers once everything is cured and your epoxy is ready to go. I will show you how to clean up your tumblers and get them ready for use or shipping or whatever you're going to do with them. So once this is dry, I'll pop back on after that second coat's done and we'll finish this up. So now that my epoxy's dried over this layer of glitter, look how super pretty that turned out. I really like this color. Now I need to finish the top of my cup, so I'm going to show you how to do that. And all I do is take my craft knife here and run it across the top rim. Now be careful with this so you don't cut yourself, but you're going to have a layer of epoxy that kind of went over that top rim. So I'm just going to get under it and I'm just going to scrape it off. If you've got any on the inside, do the same thing. So I'm just going to go through with my craft knife laying flush against the cup, and I'm just going to pop off all that extra epoxy. Most of what's up here is just some glitter that's hung over, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is just take a sanding block. I use all different kinds of sanding block grits, but I got this set from Amazon, so I'm not exactly sure which one this is. And I just take it and run it across the top. I usually just go around just like this, just across the rim until the top of it is smooth. So I have some rough spots here on the outside that I'm just going to gently angle my sanding block down just to get those rough spots around the top. Just like that. Now the top of my cup is completely smooth. So the last step is to clean the inside. So I have, where I spray painted it, you can see that I have some overspray on the inside there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a cotton round or cotton ball or whichever you have, and this has been soaked in acetone, and I'm just going to clean the inside. So you can see that real quick it gets that out. You can see here where it's cleaned and here where it's not. So just real quickly, I just take the acetone and clean the inside, making sure all of the spray paint is gone so you don't have a nasty taste in your mouth when you use your cup. Just like this. Now, the only thing I have left to do is wash it. So I will wash the inside with soap and water to get that acetone taste out, and then I'm done. So just like that, I mean, this was super, super simple. Put my lid back on here, and I have a really cute 30-ounce patterned vinyl tumbler. So here, I know this is a big question, is what does the seam look like? So this is where the vinyl met. This is the seam. So it's not terribly noticeable. You can see it, obviously, when you have two pieces that are going to meet together, you're going to have a seam. But look how pretty that is. It was so simple, too. And I love this pattern. It's just the simplicity of this. Maybe I'll just need to send this cup to Alex, seeing this is how I used her vinyl. But with that being said, I hope this tutorial helped you guys. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.